I want to talk today about somebody I've known of his family for quite a long time. He's just written a new, I assume it's a bestseller because it was featured in the New York Times. It's William Cope Moyers. He's the famous son of a famous man named Bill Moyers, who used to be on PBS. And before that, he was a right-hand man for President Lyndon Johnson. And William Cope Moyers, as far as I'm aware, has written 3 bestsellers. He's now, late middle ages. His new bestseller is How I Tell Everybody How I Advise Them About Recovery, but I Just Relapsed. He had a medical procedure and he went off on the painkillers. So let me take a step back. By some strange coincidence, I've known his sister quite a while back. We lived in a pretty prosperous town called we lived in a poor part of town called Morristown. She was married to a guy who was a friend of mine named John Basicatano, who went on to be head of Greenpeace. Despite my knowing them, it was actually Maya Solovitz that got me invited to Bill Moyers' All About Addiction show, where he went from AA, it was about 1993, to brain psychology, to brain neuro stuff, bullshit. And he wouldn't listen to me at all. And afterwards, Maya was on the production team, had invited me. She apologized to me, which she doesn't remember. Flash forward. So over the years, from time to time, William Cope Moyers contacts me. He is now head of public relations for Hazelden is combined with the Betty Ford Center. That's one big conglomerate. And he does a lot of big meetings, always on television. And somewhere along the line, he says, well, I want to talk a little bit about harm reduction. And that's how he knew me. And I said, by the way, I know your sister. And he said, no kidding. We chatted about that. And I found him to be completely cynical. His bottom line was something like, well, whatever you call it, it's all the same thing. Flash forward. And I wrote him back a letter. We're not going to be friendly anytime soon. I said, it does make a difference. And the biggest difference it makes of all is you're telling people that they can never stop thinking about themselves as being addicted. That's the worst danger of all from what you tell people. Far be it from me to point my finger and say, like the angel of death and say, I told you. But thinking of himself as an addict, he can never recover. That's his whole shtick. Somehow, I don't know what the medical procedure was. He went into a medical procedure. They gave him opioids. And can you believe it? A famous man in that position with children actually relapsed into a full-blown addiction. Unlike somebody in AA or the 12 steps, I'm stunned when somebody can give up so much because let's flash to the present. I mean, I know people who say, I took painkillers and I thought, God, now I remembered, I really like that feeling. I'm not, I've got too much to lose. I'm not going to do that. And we have a colleague in Life Process Program who was going to interview with you. I won't say her name. She's currently got family health problems. She's somebody who, was addicted for quite a long time. And now she's only been clean about 5 years. But when you look at her, you don't think she's about to relapse. And she does harm reduction. She drinks, she smokes some pot. And she once expressed to me that I might be worried that she would relapse. And I say, I don't look at you and see that. Do you know what I mean? I guess anything in the world is possible. You are so ensconced. She's got 2 kids and a husband. She's got an extended family within your own family. That's just not going to happen. And so William Cope Moyers, who was so cynical, who told me, well, it doesn't matter really. It's all the same thing. And we didn't have a relationship, but who I broke off contact with by saying, that's not how I think about it at all, has now proved my point. And what did he do? He wrote a new bestseller about it, I don't know if it's a bestseller, but it's on the front page of the New York Times. So that gives it a good boost up, and everybody knows who he is. And it gets back to something that you and I often discuss, how failure at something is used to reinforce the status quo of current thinking. You might think that this book would be, I've been pushing this approach for 30 years. And, at this late date, I relapsed. Perhaps I might deconstruct this structure, look down at the base and see what it's wrong about it. And I'm just here to tell you, aside from telling my personal story about John Pasicatondo, Maya Solovitz, Bill Moyers himself, who treated me like real shit, by the way, and William Cope Moyers, I'm going through generation of alienating the Moyers family, is yet another example of what is wrong in our way of thinking about addiction, that even when we're directly confronted with, we can't take the information in and revise our thinking.